Alright, hello. This is the video companion to the guide installing R packages using RStudio. Now, a couple quick things. As you may have seen from the website, there is another video and another PDF guide for installing R packages using just plain old R. So if you're somebody who uses R without RStudio, those guides might be better for you. But if you're somebody who's using RStudio as your main interface for R, this is the guide for you. So I have RStudio open here and we're going to work our way through this, but I want to mention a couple quick things before we actually install a package, just to talk a little bit about what packages are. So if you're at the point where you are looking to install an R packages, you have probably already used several R functions that are just built into the base R library. These are functions that we can use as long as we just have basic R installed. So for example, depending on the course you are taking, maybe you've used the mean function, maybe you've used the standard deviation function, maybe you've used the qnorm function, depending on the class. Now that might be familiar to you, it might not, depending on where you are or what class you've taken, but probably every function you've used up until this point has been in the base R library. However, there are a lot of different functions that people have designed that do things beyond those functions that are in the base R library. So R is very user created in the sense that there are people who have created sets of code for R, and these sets of code work as functions that do additional things beyond what the basic R can do. There are people who have designed packages and code for certain disciplines or very specific statistical techniques, that kind of a thing. So if you need to use something that's not in the base R library, what you need to do is you need to download and install the package that contains that function. Once you do that, you can use whatever's in that package. So the nice thing about this is this process is pretty automatic. R should know where to store and install the packages. It should know how to download the packages. And so this set of instructions is just going to talk you through how to get those packages through RStudio and get them installed in R. Now, again, depending on the course you're taking, you may or may not need additional R packages to do what you need for the course. I'm going to use Stat 213 as the example. In Stat 213, near the end of the course, there are a few functions that you will be using that are not in the base R library. And these functions are actually all within a package called Mosaic. So I'm going to go ahead and use Mosaic as the example for this set of instructions, but basically everything you're seeing here can apply to any package that you might need to install. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over here, and here I've got RStudio open for us. Now, the first thing we're going to do here is, to save us work in case we might not know if we have the package already installed, is to check and see if a package is installed. Depending on the computer you're using, if it's your own, if it's on the lab computers, maybe it's through the virtual desktop, your package may or may not be already installed. It probably won't be if you're using your computer and this is the first time you've used R, but if you're using like a lab computer, who knows, maybe the package you need is already installed. So what I'm going to show you is how to check for which packages are already installed. So if I take a look at RStudio here and I look at this bottom right window, this bottom right pane here, I can see that Files is, for me, the first tab that automatically opens. But if I click on Packages here, what this is going to show me is it's going to show me the list of packages that are already installed on my computer. In other words, these are packages that I can already load into R and use if I need to. Now, again, depending on what you're using for your R, whether it's your computer or a lab computer, this list might be a lot smaller. It might maybe even be bigger. But this shows you all of the packages that are installed on your computer. Again, lab computer, your home computer, whatever. And so what I can do is I can either scroll through this and see if the package that I need is installed. So I could scroll and see, is Mosaic in here? This is my home computer, so it should be. Yep, there's Mosaic. Or if your list is long or you don't want to scroll, you can actually type in this little magnifying glass field here, Mosaic, and it shows you all of the functions that have Mosaic as part of the name. Okay, and you can type whatever you need to in there. So that's how you can see what's already installed. So you saw I already have Mosaic in here. It's right there. So technically I don't have to install it, but I'm going to talk you through how to do that using RStudio in case you don't have Mosaic or whatever package you need. So for demonstration's sake, let's just say I don't have Mosaic installed and I want to install it. So I'm going to once again be looking in this Packages tab right here, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the Install button here, this little gray box. So if I click on that, you're going to see it opens a pop-up window, and it's going to have this install from here. You don't need to change that, just leave it as the repository. And it's going to ask you which packages you want installed. So the package I want is Mosaic, all lowercase letters, so I'm just going to type Mosaic. And like with a lot of other things, RStudio helps you by listing all of the packages that have Mosaic in the name, whether they're installed on your computer or not. These are all the packages that have Mosaic in the name somewhere. And I just want plain old Mosaic, so I'm going to go ahead and just leave it like that. You can see you can actually install multiple packages at once if you just put a space between them. This is also something that you don't have to change. It should just go to your default folder, which means that these will be installed in the place where your R program is installed, which means it should be able to recognize those and use those immediately, so you don't have to mess with anything weird. And some packages do have dependent packages. So like the Mosaic package here, this is a really big package, and it actually has other packages that it needs to run some of the functions within it. So it's a good idea, especially with the Mosaic package, to make sure this install dependencies field is clicked. That will make R automatically install any package that Mosaic needs in order for its package to run. So this is a good idea to click this just to make sure you're getting everything that is necessary for this package to work. Okay, and so once you've got that going on here, go ahead and click Install. And you'll start seeing some things show up here in your R pane in your RStudio window. Now, I already had Mosaic installed, so it didn't show me a lot of text. If this is your first time installing Mosaic, you're going to see a lot of text here. So for these bigger packages like Mosaic, this might run for like a couple minutes actually, depending on the speed of your computer, to install all of the dependent packages, unpack it, all of that kind of stuff. If you've got a smaller package you're installing, you might just see this really quickly. You might not even see additional text here. But if you're installing a larger package, you might see a lot of red text that keeps going and going and going, and that's normal. That's okay. Let it run for as long as it needs to. Again, for some of you, it might take a couple minutes. The thing that indicates if your package was installed successfully is, of course, this line here. So your package, blah, 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 whatever, is successfully unpacked. And you should see that little caret cursor line where you should now be able to type. So that's an indication that the installation process is done. And again, you might see more text than this or less text than this, depending on what your package is. But again, if it's Mosaic or another large package, give it a little bit of time. Sometimes it needs that additional bit of time because it's such a big package. All right, now I can type in my field there in my R console, so everything looks like it worked okay. Now, let's say I wanted to use something from the package that I just installed. So let's say I wanted to use something from Mosaic. As an example, the favstats function is a function that is built into the Mosaic package. So I've installed Mosaic, so if I type favstats and I hit enter, looks like something went wrong. It's saying it actually could not find the function favstats. Now that seems kind of weird because I just installed Mosaic and I said Mosaic contains this function, so it should be able to recognize it. Well, one thing that we have to make sure of whenever we install a package is there's one additional step we need to do, and that is to load the package in R or RStudio. So again, luckily, this is actually pretty quick and simple to do. It's just something you need to remember to do. Let's say I want to use favstats or something from the Mosaic package that I just installed. In order to use anything from this package or any other package that's not the base R package, so anything beyond the basic R, what I need to do is I need to load this package. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right back to the Packages tab over here. I'm going to find Mosaic. I can either scroll down to it or type it in here. And in order to load it, I'm just going to go ahead and click the checkbox next to that package. And you can see that it types in for me this library function with, the package name there. So this is the R code to load a package. Now you saw that this was another thing that gave me some text here. Again, depending on the package, you might see a lot of text, you might just see a little bit. It's in red, so it looks bad, but this is basically telling you that there are some functions within the Mosaic package that overwrite the names of functions in other packages. That's just for this R session, though, so that won't happen all the time. Basically, this is just telling you that the package is being loaded. This is just telling you what version it was built under. It's basically just telling you kind of the basic behind-the-scenes information about the package. But again, the thing we want to look for is we want to look for our cursor line here where we can go ahead and type. That suggests that the package has loaded successfully. So now I should be able to use the favestats function. And you can see now, because we're using RStudio, it's helping me out by saying, oh yeah, I recognize this function now. It's from the Mosaic package, which is really nice. So it also tells you what this function does. So this favestats function in the Mosaic package prints out a bunch of summary statistics for a vector of data. So just to show you that this function is now working within Mosaic, let me just make a fake little vector of data here, just as an example, just to show you that now this function works, now that we've actually loaded the Mosaic package. So here's some fake data. Let's say it means something to me. If I do favestats on X now, this should work. And what favestats does, again, is it just prints some basic summary stats. So it gives me the minimum of the vector, quartile 1, the median, the max, etc. So that was just a demonstration to show that now that we've installed and loaded Mosaic, we should now be able to use any functions within the package. All right, and this is actually a good segue to the final part of this PDF, which is the troubleshooting section. So let me just bring this up here really quick, talk through it a little bit. So the easiest way to make sure a package is working is to just try to use one of the functions built into that package. So here I just did this example. Favestats is working for me, so now Mosaic must be working. Should be working fine. But if you're running into an issue with a function that should be working, given a package that you want to work with, here's just a set of troubleshooting steps you might want to try to see if you can fix the problem. So first step is kind of the most basic one as far as the level of troubleshooting. Make sure the package that you need is actually installed. So you can type this into the R console, or you can again check the packages list. If the package that you want is in this list, then it is installed. If it's not, then you'll have to install it using the process we just showed a couple minutes ago. If your package is installed, but your function, whatever it is from that package, is not working, the next thing you want to make sure is you want to make sure that your function, that your package is actually loaded into the R session. So again, this is kind of that middle step. Sometimes it's easy to forget to do this. You can either type library and then the name of your package in parentheses in your R console field here. So like library, Mosaic, hit enter, or you can, in RStudio, scroll down to the name of that function and make sure that there's a check mark next to its name. And again, what that will do is it will load, like we saw here, that will load the package into R and allow you to use any functions within it. Typically, that's what's going to cause you trouble. Either the package isn't installed or it's installed, but you forgot to load it in, which is, again, is an easy thing to do. I do it all the time. Sometimes, though, that's not quite enough. If your package is installed and you've loaded it, but your function is still not working, one next thing you want to do is to check to see if you have the latest version of R installed. So depending on the package, sometimes the bigger packages or packages that have been created since you installed R won't work on older versions of R. They need a newer version to run. So this third step here is to check and see, do you have the latest version of R? And if you don't, how to fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to check your version of R. So if you're in RStudio like we are here, down here in my R console, if you haven't deleted any of your text, you can just scroll up to the top of the console window and you can see your version of R. So my version of R on this computer is 4.0.4. If you've erased the text, so if you've Controlled L in this window and you've deleted this text that kind of comes up automatically when you open RStudio, just close RStudio and open it again, and you'll see this as your first line in your R console window. Okay, so this is your version of R. This is my version of R. Is this the most up-to-date version? Well, the way to check that, let me drag this window over here. The way to check that is to actually go to the website where you downloaded R. So this R project website here, and just take a look at the home page. And the latest release version will be listed there. So I have that front page of cran.rproject.org up here. Let me zoom in. And this is where we downloaded R. If I look down just a little bit here in this second box, you can see that the current latest release, as the making of this video, is R version 4.1.0. So this is the most up-to-date version of R. And you can see, of course, I don't have that version. I have an older version. So if you have an older version of R and you want to update it to the newest version, all you have to do is just install R again, just like you installed it the very first time you used it. So there are, of course, guides for that on the website if you've forgotten how to download R, but basically you go back to whatever you did to install R in the first place. Now it's telling you to download this most up-to-date version. And this is very convenient because all this is going to do is just replace your old version of R. So you don't have to uninstall R first. You don't have to do anything fancy. If you download this new version here, it will simply replace the old version wherever you installed the old version, assuming you didn't mess with the file location. So you don't have to do anything exciting or weird. You just need to download the most recent version. Then close out RStudio if you haven't done that yet. Reopen RStudio, and you should see it link to the newest version of R on your computer automatically. So this should, if you follow the steps, and if I had installed this latest version of R, closed down RStudio and reopened it, this would then say R version 4.1.0. Then do the same process for your package. Install it, load it, and try your function. And that's usually going to solve any additional problems you might have. That's kind of the last attempt to solve a problem, is just installing the latest version of R. That seems to fix a lot of issues. Now, just one final little thing here at the end. Every once in a while, R can just be kind of buggy. And this is especially true if you've done a lot of stuff in a single R session. So if you've got a lot of stuff going on in your R console, maybe you've done a lot of analyses, maybe you've loaded a couple packages already, maybe you've done some stuff with data, you've just got a lot of stuff going on in R, sometimes it can kind of bug out on you. So if you've done everything in the troubleshooting and you feel like you've got everything working right and R is still not working for you, do the equivalent of turning off your computer and turning it back on, which is just closing out RStudio and opening it again. So sometimes just closing and reopening R or RStudio can fix the problem. It's kind of like that hard reset where maybe your computer is bugging out and you're like, okay, well, maybe if I turn it off and turn it back on again, maybe it'll work. It's kind of the same thing with R. Sometimes you just need to restart it and things will work for you. All right, so that's a bit of a guide on how to install and work with additional R packages. Again, depending on the course you're taking, you may or may not need additional packages. You may need different packages than the one I mentioned in here, Mosaic. You may need other ones. It depends on the class, but this general process should be the same for pretty much any package that you may need.